Good evening, everyone. I'm calling to order the December 16, 2025 meeting of the Southborough Select Board. First item on the agenda is public comment, and this is an opportunity for members of the public to offer comment on an item that's not on the published agenda. We try to keep public comments to 3 minutes, and they're not intended as a back and forth, just an opportunity for people to offer comment. Is anyone here who wishes to speak under public comment? Anyone in the online audience? Okay, so we have two scheduled appointments this morning. The first is from Jay Montiel, our IT director, with the IT department update.
Good evening, Select Board. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Doing good. I just have a few updates on the state of the IT department, just a couple things to go over. Just some updates on what happened over the year. We've converted the Gmail, our email accounts to .gov. So that happened over the year. Pretty seamless. It seemed seamless from the outside, but it was a little complex in the background, but got that all done. Also had cybersecurity cyber scans that we had throughout the year that we do pen testing every year for. Came back pretty clean, right? Knock on some wood. But as good as it comes out, anything could ever happen. It can happen. But we just try to keep things as safe as possible. And also with that, just making sure that employees are trained by sending out different testings and making sure, people don't click on links and, just make sure people are up to par. And as you see, sometimes I send out emails just to keep people up to date on what's going on, different scams that are happening out there. Just making sure people are up to date on that. I know this happened end of last year and kind of continued into this year, but the Wi-Fi has been completed for the town. I never really had a chance to kind of talk about that with the board. Pretty exciting stuff to have internet in locations that we didn't have any internet, including DPW. They're here as well. But also other places in town that were just dead spots for, being able to connect the laptop and traveling from building to building and being able to keep that connectivity was a good thing. Just some things that are coming up. You guys know we are looking at getting the hearing room updated for Zoom meetings. That's still in progress. We're still working on that currently with Tim and with Matt Probst from the MTC. And also just some other things that are happening. DPW fiber. I know that's something that we've been working on over there as well, to get fiber up at the transfer station so that we can work on cameras being updated in that location. And also I have submitted to Capital possibly to upgrade our phone system. We're definitely on an outdated phone system currently that is still on-prem. A lot of the equipment that I have there is
You said
on premise. Yes, I'm sorry, on premise. And and so all the servers are located either at public safety or in some of the buildings in town. A lot of that equipment is outdated. It's going to be end of life very soon. And just the fact that I'm not going to be able to buy licensing at some point for new people if we had to, or new locations if we had to put a phone in a location. It's best for us to move in that direction of getting things off of our locations and into the cloud. And with the redundant ISPs that we have in place, that keeps us in a place where if like something did go down, we have a failover to keep the phone systems up and running. Honestly, that's really all I had for tonight. There was other things that we were going to talk about with the hearing room, but that's not happening tonight as well. So if you guys have any questions, concerns, anything you want to talk about, I'm here now.
All right, well, just one question I might ask you about here is the website. I know, what was it, 2 years ago? We had a major upgrade to the website.
Yep.
And I know that we've been over time, trying to make it as user-friendly as possible. Is that still in process? Or?
Yep. There's actually a window coming up. I believe it's in the beginning of January is when we're going to be renewing the website as well. Again, it's part of our 3-year contract with the upgrade that we got. So we get to reface or update or make changes to or make better to the website. And some of those things could be, what we're doing with agendas. How can we make that easier and more seamless? And that's something we've been talking about with the town clerk as well. But also just refacing or just giving more permissions to other members in town if they need to like make changes. Most of the employees in town have seen me in some way or form to get their, stuff up on their page specifically. But if there's better ways to do that in the future, that's kind of what we're looking for with this new refacing in the next iteration.
Marguerite?
Thank you. I like the cyber criminal reminders coming around. They keep you alert.
Yep.
I don't have any particular questions. I know you're going to be busy with automation in the very near future.
Yep.
We already chat pretty regularly, so I think I'm good right now.
Okay, sounds good. I don't know if Kathy had anything.
Kathy?
I do. So hi, Jay. Thank you for coming tonight.
Yep.
So I've got a few specific things, but before I do that, I just wanted to thank you and Hassan for what you do. You're totally appreciated. We're all busy sometimes and we don't always say things we should, but I feel totally confident in what you and Hassan do. I am very glad we have a in-house IT staff versus what we had a few years ago with the outsource. I think it's the right thing to do. I appreciate how helpful you are when anybody needs anything, your attitude, the way you approach things. You're a pleasure to work with. So, this is the holiday season where we should be thanking people more than we do. So I just want you to know you are totally appreciated. And if there are times when I specifically say things and refer to MTC, it's not done with anything other than I just wasn't thinking. MTC is here to support you. You make the calls here. This is your department, and they're here to help and not override or make decisions. So they're here to assist us. As we know, they're very capable. So we'll always encourage you to work with them. But this is your department to run, and you certainly have my support. So I just want to make sure you know that.
Thank you.
A couple questions though. What have you got in the near term on your capital plan? Is the new phone system on it, or is it to come?
No, the phone system is on the Capitol. I did submit it to Capitol at this point. I'm still waiting for time to schedule the talk with them. But yeah, that's the main thing I have on there currently. For this year. Yeah, for this coming up fiscal year. Yep, correct. And that's all. That's the major things that I have right now. Anything else is easily managed within my budget that I can, tinker with and make sure upgrades are happening in the background.
So Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we are going to hear from Capitol on the 13th. So you definitely should get in front of them before the 13th, so we know what they recommend as far as the phone system goes. Okay, I always ask this one. Where are we as far as being on the cloud? What is there left to be put on the cloud that you'd like to see on the cloud?
Well, phones is definitely that one of the missing links in a sense. The phone system, we've had a lot of things happen over the last couple of years that have transitioned to the cloud, including like the assessors programs and also other programs that we were having like file servers and stuff. Some transitioning to OneDrive in some departments where they're just using OneDrive for their files. Other things that could happen is, instead of having to purchase new servers in the next 4 years or something like that, since I've been here, would be maybe transitioning some of those servers if we need to into the cloud. Again, it would be more of a necessity thing and how we get there, but that's something I'm going to have to review over the next couple of years, especially when that equipment that I purchased when I came here almost 5 years ago now is going to start to depreciate pretty fast after that. But yeah, just transitioning some of that equipment over to the cloud would be my next look at.
Well, that kind of leads me to the next question, which is, aren't we to the point that you're not going to need to purchase a whole lot of new servers?
No, yeah, not at all. I mean, that's kind of why I really wanted to pick a robust system to keep in place to give me a little bit more leverage so that, not that it's a good thing, but at least, you see other towns where they're keeping systems far past their longevity. But at least we're at a place where if I keep them patched up and they're never going to really like be end of life in a sense, as far as like the VM software that we're currently using, I have that ability to keep them patched and also give me that ability to transition those servers to a cloud service within the platform that I'm currently using.
Okay, so that sounds like a very good plan. The last thing is, and goes back to how you continue to warn people about not clicking on things that you don't know what they are and who they're from. The latest way that I see people trying to get people to click is e-vites. And I've had this happen multiple times to clients of mine in the last couple months, where you get an invitation by email and people just click on them because they don't think about it. And it's from a person you know, but it's fake. So someone's gotten into their contact list and sent it out. And then once they do that, they're now into your contact list. So just, balloons from there. So you might want to specifically warn people about being very careful when you get a Evite that doesn't make sense. Like, I got invited to a barbecue in November, right? So
That was the key warning right there.
That was. And then everybody in my office who doesn't even know the person got it too. So that's the one I'm seeing right now that to me is scary because it's coming from a person and you're just used to clicking on those. So
Yeah, some of the ones that we're currently getting, especially over the last month or so, has been a lot of HR style attacks where it's like, hey, here's your payroll, or hey, your W-2s are coming up, or you might want to update your W-2 information. And that's honestly just like as recent as today, some of those have been coming through. Unfortunately, they've always find a way. You can block them, spam them, put them in a container and hope they don't come back again. But they're always going to find a way. And with AI and the way bots are just randomly sending them out, you're constantly going to get attacked. But it's the good part is a lot of the team members around town are pretty good with coming to one of us to say, hey, what is this? And should I click on it? I think I've kind of scared them in a sense to, really, I don't care. Just come to us. I don't care what question it is. Make sure we know about it. You don't know what you're clicking on. And in some cases they are legitimate, but we just don't know that until we can, really take a look at the email and analyze it and figure out where it's coming from. So yeah, just keep an eye out for all of them.
So is Hassan with you tonight?
No, he probably just stepped out, or maybe not. Yeah, he
right.
probably just stepped out.
So I hope he listens to this because he's much appreciated too. Remember, Hassan came to us with no IT experience, right? He learned everything he's learned, and look how good he is. So, you wanted him, you knew who he was, you knew his character, and thought he could learn it, and he did. So, I want to make sure that we include him in this conversation too, because he's also very much
continuously growing too. So that's the best part about it.
Yep. Good.
And
Okay,
just
well,
to echo
thank you.
What Kathy was saying, we made a lot of progress in the last 3 years or so, because I remember, that time period around like 2021, 2022, where everything we were really, a lot of meetings were moving to a Zoom format, and the town was really struggling with how we do that, how we use the hybrid format. I know you were, unfortunately, I felt bad getting a lot of calls from people like me at 7:30 at night, 7:45 at night. Which wire do I connect?
Yeah,
to
what owl is this and where's the
That's
owl?
right.
So, yeah. Marguerite as well was with me in some of those struggles, but I feel like we're kind of past that stage, and you've helped us, get to a calmer place. So hopefully it frees up some of your own energies to think about some of the bigger, infrastructure issues and cybersecurity and things like that.
Absolutely.
Instead of kind of help desk type issues.
Yeah, and
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I'm
Go
sorry. I just wanted to add, when Jay goes out to meetings, with his peers, and when I go out to meetings, with other managers and that, it's amazing what we assume should be done and what other people haven't gotten to yet. We talk about dual authentication as just something routine that we've now worked into our culture. Some communities haven't touched that yet.
Yeah.
Right? There are things that, we really, have done an awful lot, and we've moved that ball forward, and we've moved things forward as Kathy helped to articulate in terms of, our, everything to the things to the cloud. I really think that IMC is probably our last big thing. With the police, but that's going
more,
to be addressed, I think, more with the regional dispatch
exactly.
and everything. So that becomes then a little bit of a moot point.
Yep.
Jay, actually, I really enjoy, what he brings to the table for the town. And he he's had to dumb it down for me for like the last 3-4 years. But today we had a conversation and I understood all the acronyms and,
You're
and,
getting better.
I think he's getting proud of me that, that we can
Are you,
engage in these
are
conversations.
you also moving towards, or do we have SSO?
Yeah, a lot of programs that I've been able to actually embed into Duo as well, which creates the SSO connection, and they've actually improved on that with Duo as well to create more SSO connections with applications.
What is this?
A single sign-on is.
This is another efficiency improvement, rather than having to remember a zillion different passwords.
Yeah.
It's a program, so it knows that it's you, and like, to log into my Zoom, I just press SSO, and it
Yeah.
knows that it's.
Easier ways to not have to remember 50 million passwords. Any other questions?
I don't see anyone with any other questions.
So keep us posted on the McAuliffe Hearing Room where you end up
Yep.
there. Once you're truly ready to go, let us know how
Yep.
that ended up.
Yep. No, and now I think that other comment was just, hopefully improvements with how we, enhance this room in the future and hopefully make it easier for us to start meetings if we need to at any point. Similar to what we're doing over at Public Safety. And I'm hoping to improve some of those things over at Public Safety as well. It gives me, the technology we have there gives me a capability to just slightly improve things to make them better and
Right.
and try to make the event a little bit easier to conduct when we're doing meetings over there. But thank you very much, everyone, for the comments, and we really do appreciate hearing that because, we just want to make sure we're doing the best we can. It's a tough job to make sure we're keeping ahead of the curve, but it's like it's constantly changing. So we appreciate the comments, seriously. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
All right, thank you.
All right, next up is Mr. Condeff, who has an update on the town-wide pavement management plan implementation.
Thank you. Vanessa, slide. Before I get started, I just want to, again, say what everybody else just said, but the IT department has been great to work with from another department's perspective. So thanks, Jay. The reason I'm here tonight is to kind of refresh everyone's memory from a meeting we had maybe a year ago, going over our pavement management plan. The town contracted with Beta a number of years, probably 2 years ago, to do a survey of the roads in town. The issue that the town has is that the roads are in poor shape, and regrettably, they still are in poor shape. So the purpose of the pavement management plan is to develop a plan to improve those roads for the least cost possible. So our goal is to improve roads and lower the ongoing maintenance costs. So our solution at the time was to develop a pavement management plan to identify and score and rank the condition of the roads throughout the town. Next slide. So we contracted with Beta Group, and Beta drove every road in town, and they used cameras to inspect the roads and AI to score the roads. That process ends up scoring the roads on a 0 to 100 scale, 0 being the worst and 100 being the best. So you could prioritize the roads and come up with the areas and square footages and approximate cost to fix the paving. Okay, I want to underscore this is an exercise in just the surface paving. So we did that, and next slide, Vanessa, and they ended up generating this final report. The link to the final report is there on the bottom of the slide, and essentially it scores every road. It gives an approximate dollar value based upon that score to fix the road. So next slide, Vanessa. As part of that, they also came up with a map, and this map shows all the roads in town, and it shows different colors for those roads. Next slide, Vanessa. And those colors rank the roads by the category that they scored. Everything from no maintenance required, those are generally the newly paved roads, all the way down to roads that require major rehabilitation or reconstruction. So if the road shows as red on that map, can you go back one slide again? So those roads that show as red on this map are the ones that scored the poorest and rise to the surface as those in need, the highest need to get repaved. The ones we just did, if you could go back for a second, up in the northeast corner of town, Pine Hill Road, we just finished a project that was $1 million project up there. We did pick Pine Hill for a few reasons. Obviously, the condition, it's shown as red on this map, but also because of the number of vehicles that drive over Pine Hill Road and the lack of infrastructure. So we didn't have to deal with water mains and drainage systems. It was all country drainage, if you will. So it came out pretty good. We skipped over the middle section because I had about $1 million in Chapter 90 funds to allocate towards this project. And that's how much the work that we did cost. So we skipped that middle section because it's a little unique. It's got the sidewalks. It's a little more complicated. And we will get to it, but it was just easier to do the north end and the south end for those reasons.
Is this Acre Bridge here? That goes into Marlboro?
Acre Bridge is actually, Tim, if you look, let's see. It's almost center in the map, central. So all central northern end. Yes, that red piece there.
Okay, I was gonna say, if that was yellow, then I would have questions about this entire chart.
No, but that's a good candidate again because of the lack of infrastructure on that road and the condition it's in and the number of vehicles that use it. So that's one of those that we're targeting as part of our next projects. This map can be located at the link at the bottom of this slide. Okay, Vanessa, thank you. Next one. Okay, this curve shows a typical representation of the deterioration of pavement. Now, if I'm not putting you to sleep, I probably will now. The pavement, the horizontal scale is time in years, and the vertical scale is that pavement score that we've talked about. So this color coding matches the color coding from the roads on that prior chart. And you'll notice that if you score from a 92 to 100, that's no maintenance required. And the cost associated with that is $0 per square yard. Routine maintenance is 80 to 92, and that's estimated at $1 per square yard. Next category, 70 to 80, preventative maintenance, and that's about $10 per square yard. And as we get into the lower part of the graph, we're talking a minor rehabilitation, such as mill and overlay. That's $20 per square yard. And then major rehabilitation, which is basically reconstruction of the road, that's $50 a square yard. So the goal of what we're trying to do is to get all of our roads up into those upper portions, so the maintenance cost reduces. So what does that mean? That means we have to probably fix the roads that are in bad shape first in order to get all the roads up in those upper categories. Next slide, Vanessa. Okay, this chart may be a little difficult to read, but this shows the road miles in town based upon that map and how they scored in the different categories. So we have about 9.5 miles of roads in town that require major rehabilitation. That's 13% of the roads in town that the town's responsible for. Combining that with the next category, which is about 20 miles of roads, there's minor rehabilitation. So that accounts for 41% of the roads in town fall in those two worst categories, which is pretty significant. If we can keep things up in those upper three categories, which is the other half of the roads in town, then every dollar we spend on the roads, we can do more roads with fewer dollars, I guess is.
Bill, can I interrupt and just ask a question? So is this reflecting the results of the beta study that was done a year ago?
It is.
So the roads would have deteriorated more.
They would have, it's a year's worth of deterioration. We've improved many of the roads that are not accounted for in these
Okay.
numbers, okay? So this is the best data we have. Typically, you'll redo, you'll use that van every 3 to 5 years and do another assessment on your roads.
Okay, thanks.
2 years ago, Bill, 2 years ago, December 23.
2 years ago, correct.
What's it cost to do the assessment?
A lot of towns do it a quarter of the town a year. That report, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, was 50,000
That's right.
For a full
I think-
full
yeah.
assessment?
for a full assessment.
Yeah.
A lot of towns just go quadrant to quadrant and do it that way.
And then we added the sidewalks on afterwards.
Right. That was a separate study. Yep.
Do some roads wear out faster than others because they get more traffic?
They do. And the types of vehicles, so, these truck exclusion zones that we have throughout town may help the length of the pavement. A lot of it has to do with the repetitive stress on the road from the vehicular traffic, and the fewer roads, the longer the road will last. The fewer cars, the longer the roads will last. Next slide, Vanessa. So what does that mean? That means in terms of dollars, and again, I want to underscore and caveat these dollars, and I can't say this enough. This is pavement cost only. This does not talk about guardrails. It doesn't talk about curbing. It doesn't talk about drainage. It doesn't talk about water. This is just the paving costs, okay? So based upon those numbers on the prior chart, we're looking at 6.2 million for major rehabilitation. And we're looking at about 5.5 million for minor rehab. So the goal is to knock those two categories out. And then as we move forward, Chapter 90 money should be sufficient to take care of those other three categories, as we move forward. So the goal is to eliminate those first two bars in that graph.
Bill, Chapter 90 plus the annual town warrant allocation, or just Chapter 90 as far as the green and the blue?
Chapter 90, as far as the green and blue, is what I'm looking to get to.
Okay, so you could use the annual town allocation to pay the debt service on the 14.
You could.
Okay.
So I did hand out a slide because I didn't include it in this unintentionally. This is taken out of the beta report, and basically it shows an annual dollar amount that the town can commit for the different, to basically get improvement on the roads. So this is just an example. The 428,000 is what we on average get from Chapter 90 funding. And you'll see if we take all of that and put it towards the roads, we're still going to decrease in our road surface rating, and it's going to continue to go down, and we're going to continue to deteriorate. If we take that and combine it with the roughly 400,000 that we put in for annually at annual town meeting, we're going to tread water. We're going to basically keep what we have. The conditions we have is what we're going to be at indefinitely. But if we put in some capital investments, we will see some improvement. It'll take years, but we'll get there. And that's basically an illustration of how this is going to work. And next slide, Vanessa. So in terms of the plan, we did put in for the capital request a broad range of 3 to 5 million. I'm working with VHB to prioritize a few of the roads that we want to do if this is funded next year. The roads that I'm targeting are Acre Bridge Road, Northborough Road between Maine and Johnson, Pine Hill Road, the middle section, and Woodland Road. That's not to say we're gonna do all of those. That's to say those are the low-hanging fruit that have little utilities, don't require virtually any permitting. So we can move forward with those forthwith. Year two is when we're also gonna have to set aside some funds for design and permitting for year two. Okay, so those are when we're gonna start getting into roads that require drainage, water perhaps, permitting and some bid documents, those types of things. So years 2 through 5 would have that engineering aspect to it. So that's it in a nutshell. I do plan to come back before town meeting 1 or 2 more times and give you an update and let you know where we're headed and what roads we're looking at.
So, if your request is to make a capital investment of $3 to $5 million per year for 5 years,
Yes,
and then after the end of 5 years, you don't have to do that same level anymore?
that's the plan, correct.
Okay. I see this as like, kind of giving us a heads up that there's, significant capital request
Right.
coming up.
Many towns lay the capital request right at the onset of the program. There's a couple of problems with that. Construction costs go up. So you might plan to do 10 roads. That ends up only being 8 roads because of the escalation in cost. Or cost of asphalt, that's a variable that you can't predict. So an annual approach is better, and you could be a little more selective in targeting. And if, somebody has a particular issue with a particular planned road, maybe you don't get the full funding. I can't imagine that, but that could happen. So I think taking this one step at a time approach is more prudent.
Marguerite?
I think it was Sam Stivers who told me before this was done, the town's philosophy used to be to let a road just completely disintegrate and then fix it. But it turned out that that was an expensive way to do it. It was better to get them into reasonable shape and then just keep. So I guess that's what we're working to do.
That's the idea, yes.
Oh, I got a whole bunch of questions. So, even if we do, the most aggressive, maintenance, roads need to get replaced at some interval. The number that I've used in the past is sort of 20 years. And, how much longer life would you expect a road to have if we engage in this aggressive preventive maintenance scheme?
An average road's gonna last 25 to 30 years with no maintenance.
Yeah.
You could probably get 50 years out of a road taking that approach.
Okay.
One of the things I'm working on.
You have my attention.
One of the things I'm working on, Al, is with the planning board. Their typical road cross sections for the subdivisions, in my opinion, is grossly inadequate. In my opinion, that road profile that they have as part of their subdivision regs is suitable maybe for a driveway, not a subdivision road. That's reflected in some of the subdivisions we have. So we're starting to implement testing and QA criteria, quality assurance testing during construction so that we can be assured that we're getting what we expect. And I'm working with them on revising the regs so that we can increase a good cross-section for the road.
So one of the one of the justifications for adding the second engineer to your department was that we would have a greater supervision of the paving contractors so that we would be assured of,
Correct,
we got what we paid for.
correct.
How's that working out?
It's working out great. She, she's working closely with the contractors, measuring quantities, making sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Then the next question I have really relates to sort of economies of scale with paving contracts. Can you sort of talk about, what your experience is, if a contract is for twice as much, how much do we save sort of per unit on a per unit basis?
You get projects that they're either going to be complicated or straightforward. It really depends on the project, okay? We have regional contracts where contractors fixed price on every unit item. Pine Hill Road's one of those. We used our CMRPC contract. Those prices were established before they even saw the project. Okay.
Okay.
In other cases, you might have a case where you're doing drainage. John and Mitchell, that's a good example. That's a complicated project. It's very small. We're up around the Pine Hill project in terms of cost because it's so complicated. It's very narrow, tight conditions. You got to do the drainage, make sure everybody has access. It's only one way in and out, so it complicates things. So it's project specific, Al. In theory, yes. If you have a straight road that no real uniqueness to it, but I don't know of any projects that are really like that.
Okay. Then sort of the last thing that I guess I think makes sense is I know that there's been some discussion about the Neary parking lot, and it makes a lot more sense for you to do the Neary parking lot than for the school committee to do the Neary parking lot, given that paving is your main business, and so I would encourage you to stay engaged in that.
I'm not sure what that's about.
I know there's discussion that the Neary parking lot, depending on what we do, is going to need to be replaced. And it's a big paving job, and it seems to me that, to the extent that we can achieve economies of scale, that's an opportunity to save some money.
Always
Okay.
looking to save money.
Then the last one that I have is this chart you provided us, which you provided before. I think the town's contribution to the Chapter 90 pool, can you remind me what that is last year?
About 400,000.
It is about 400, that's what I thought. So we're essentially at that 850 number. kind of,
Correct.
Sort of. We're treading water.
Right.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's not surprising. I think I'd estimated a couple years ago that we needed about 1.2 million to really, per year to do this. But if we get 50 years out of a road, I'll have to doodle some numbers, but that strikes me as an interesting business proposition.
So there's a few things that I want to put out there that we currently don't have. One is a formal moratorium on road openings after a project's done. So can't have contractors coming up, digging up the new road, in other words. Right now, we put it out there, it's respected, but technically it doesn't need to be unless we have a town bylaw that says that. Okay. There's things that we can employ that can ensure that anytime we have a road opening, that proper measures are put in place to ensure that, the work is done properly and acceptably. You don't have to look further than Route 9 with that trench that was put in to know how devastating a road opening can be.
Thank you.
I just kind of want to understand the economy of scale piece a little bit better. If you magically had 13 million this coming year, do we think that this columns added up of the two worst categories, the orange and red, would we be able to possibly save any money if we would do like a borrowing article and go in that direction instead? Like, is there,
I'd still only be able to spend it at about 5 million a year.
okay.
That's where the problem is.
Is that because of design and other studies and stuff, or is that just?
Staff, logistics, that's the capacity we have currently yeah.
Okay, as a town,
as a town.
like, supervision of the project, because like sure, a contractor could have a larger crew,
Sure.
right?
It's not, that's right.
Okay, so the bottleneck is us to not be able to see over
Correct.
more projects.
Correct.
But you'd have a lot of roads closed.
We would too, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it would be an aggressive approach. I just was kind of wondering about heading it off quicker. Second piece would be the sidewalks along these and the maintenance and repair of them. So how does that affect the numbers that you're kind of talking about, the 3 to 5?
Sidewalks are not reflected in that in any way, shape, or form. So if you wanted to add sidewalks or improve sidewalks, that's an extra cost.
So it reasonably, all of this should be a lot more because our goal is to add sidewalks places. So
Correct.
if we want to stick with that, then we would want to
Correct.
wrap the project into the same cohesive package and do it at once.
That's right. And that also goes along with the plan of doing it annually so that we can look at individual roads. And maybe, you know, it goes up and down a little bit from year to year, but now we know what we're scoping and getting into.
And then what about like the maintenance? I know we're not talking about that now, but just curious, maintenance and repair of sidewalks, like, do they have the same life as the roads? Is it similar? Like, is that at all related to each other that we should, again, just think about it while we think about this topic?
You're speaking my language. The biggest culprit with degradation to sidewalks is street trees. I hate to say it. But the root systems, there's not enough width in the right of way to put all of that in a profile. So you've got a street tree, a sidewalk, a grass belt road. It's not wide enough to fit all that. So the roots go under the sidewalks. We just spent over 50,000 redoing Stockwell and Fitzgerald sidewalks, and that's not terribly old. So.
Okay. And then like the road salt and stuff getting on sidewalks, all that doesn't really deteriorate.
It
them any
depends on the
further.
sidewalk. Most of them in town are bituminous. Just the main ones like Main Street, the tip projects will have the poured concrete.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those are mine for now. Thanks.
While I have you.
Yeah.
I have two things I want to ask about. One is kind of loosely related to the pavement management, which is, do you have any information about the status of the, the bigger culvert capital projects that we approved at the last town meeting?
I do. We've got design 100% done with Willow Street.
Okay.
We're currently finalizing permits with the DEP and the Conservation Commission. So we're pending those two permits. We expect that within the next few months, we'll be going out to bid on Willow. Northborough Road, the design is nearly complete. We still have to go to Concom with that one. We're filing actually tomorrow, I think. I have an expression of interest meeting with the state for a culvert grant on that one.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
And what about John Street, Mitchell?
John Mitchell and Central.
Okay.
That's permitted with Concom. We've awarded the contract to AF Amarillo. We were hoping they were going to get something done on that Central Street portion this fall, but they didn't. So that'll be in the spring.
All right. And then if we could just jump around a little bit, later on our agenda, under the NERI item, I know we just had emailed about this, that in the letter we got from the school committee about NERI next steps, there was a request that the letter says in part, as you are aware, the Neary site continues to be associated with the landfill. The school committee requests that the select board work with the Department of Public Works to ensure that the lost soil gas probes are reestablished and that any other recommendations are discussed and acted upon. So could you just inform the rest of the board some of the kind of the progress we're making towards that?
Sure. We believe that those gas probes are still there. They've just been covered up, so we're in the process of trying to geolocate those using our GPS system. If that proves unproductive or uneventful, we do plan to go out to bid prior to April to install any missing probes. So by April, we'll have those probes installed.
Okay, thanks. Does anyone have any questions for Bill about that?
Andrew, I haven't had a chance.
Yep. Oh, Kathy?
Yeah, I haven't talked to
Sorry,
Bill.
'cause sometimes.
I know.
I know.
Trust
'cause we're
me.
remote.
I know, trust
You
me.
don't see this, but the new television is installed in this room. So I can see you on the television, but it's like 20 feet away, 30 feet away.
Well,
And you're
that's actually not a bad thing.
And you're only a quarter of it.
That's not a bad thing either. No Wizard of Oz. So, hey, Bill, can we go back to the Chapter 90 allocation from the
Yes.
state?
Yes.
So, as everybody knows, the Fair Share Act, otherwise known in my world as the millionaire's tax, part of the money is supposed to be going for roads. Weren't we getting an extra $250,000 from that the last couple of years?
We only got it once so far, so I'm hesitant to include it in my estimates.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame you, but I do think there will be, because it is generating, it's supposed to generate $3 billion a year. It's not quite doing that, but it's generating not too far from that. So I do think you'll get more money from that because that's what it's for. But anyway, I just want to make sure, because I knew we at least got 250 one year.
All
from
that a
there.
factor of safety, Kathy.
I agree. Conservatism. I totally agree. Okay, the two planned tip projects, Corderville Road and Framingham Road. We are responsible for what exactly?
Design services. So we've contracted with VHB to do the engineering design for each of those projects. What does that mean? That means they prepare a set of plans that meet Mass DOT's standards and specifications and review. Review is the important part. So Mass DOT, like any state-funded project, they'll have mandates and requirements that as a local road, you may not have to do. So we're happy to pay for that extra design fee because the cost on each of those projects is going to be about 18 million. So it's going to be a ways out, but so just for clarity, Framingham Road goes from Boston Road all the way to the Marlboro line for a project. Corderville Road goes from Hopkinton to Mount Vickery. So those will be paid for construction by the state. That's definite. So we're on the hook for the design. That's just beginning now. It's going to be a process. It's going to be about a year or two long. And then once we get through that, it'll get in the queue for construction.
So have we set aside the money for the design for each?
That's what I currently have slated for my current Chapter 90 funds. So I have a certain dollar amount accrued with the state. Currently it's about 2.1 million.
Okay.
That will virtually cover the cost of the design services.
Okay. Okay, now back to sidewalks for a moment. We approved with ARPA money for sets of designs. I believe it's Richards, Oregon, Oak, and Parkerville, if I'm correct. So I believe the other four can speak for themselves, but the intent was to go forward with those 4 sidewalk projects. So I would request that you assume that for the moment, so we can look at that at the same time we look at the $15 million for the roads that are in the first 2 categories.
Sure.
Horrible and not so horrible.
I did file as part of the capital plan a request for funding for those projects, all grouped together.
Okay, so when are you going in front of Capitol?
I've already gone in front of Capitol.
So they've seen everything.
Correct.
Okay, because Andrew, what I would like to request is that we formally request from Capitol not only a summary of what Bill's asked for, their recommendation, et cetera, but also they do the work that basically lays out how this could all be paid for and financed. You've got people there that can do this work, they can work with advisory, but I don't want us going off on the side and trying to figure this out. I want to look at it with somebody else doing it so we actually can look at something that has been vetted by committee and brought forth. But you know, they've got to understand that's what we want from them, and we will need it pretty soon because it's going to affect the budget for fiscal year 27 as far as what we want to bring forth April 11th.
And so we have our joint meeting on January 13th
Yep.
with Capital and advisory about Capital.
Yep.
So,
And I'd raise my hand to be the liaison with both of them to make sure they understand what we want from them. So we have a good report we can look at and analyze,
we want
critique,
to get
et
that in
cetera.
advance of the 13th.
Yeah, yeah. So they're going to, knowing Jason, he's already started doing this kind of thing, but I'd like to at least tomorrow morning call him and say, we really need to talk about how we're going to put this together too, money wise.
That makes sense to me.
Bill, is that okay?
No, that
With
sounds
you?
great.
Okay. All right. So you're done with Capital. You've gone for, you've said this is what I'd like to do, and they've got all that, right?
Correct.
Okay. And it includes the sidewalks, the 4
Correct.
sidewalks.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now the cost, let's keep going as far as more costs go. The cost to actually do the work on Willow Street, the culvert, and actually do the work on Northborough. That's nowhere, you haven't costed that out yet, correct?
So we've got funding through town meeting last year for Willow Street. We're estimating the cost about 2 million. We're still continuing to seek grants for construction, covering the construction portion. But that's currently funded. Northborough Road, north of Johnson, not the section I mentioned earlier, is also about 2 million. That is an article on town meeting. Or potentially an article on town meeting. I submitted that as part of my capital plan.
Okay. A new article for April.
Correct. And again,
Okay. I'd forgotten you had the money for Willow Street. So you're right. So you've got the money there, even if you don't get the grant to actually fix Willow Street.
correct.
Okay. So now you just need the money from Northborough Road to actually fix it.
That's right.
Okay. And your plan, so you've submitted that to Capital also for April?
I have.
Okay.
And
Right, so
again,
that's all.
I'm continuing this, like I said, I'm meeting with the state tomorrow for a grant. So
Okay. And if you had to ballpark it tonight, I know this is hard to, what do you think it cost to do those 4 sidewalks?
I don't have, I'm not prepared, Kathy.
Okay.
It's
All
part
right.
of my capital plan. If you look it up, I can email it to everybody tomorrow.
That would be helpful. Thanks.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like to me you really need about 20 million, maybe if you were to do the worst and the next worst over time, and the sidewalks and Northborough Road culvert, at least.
Right.
All right. Okay. So we don't have to go any further tonight. So that's just a,
The Northborough Road culvert, are we talking about the same one that got replaced with, that failed and that got replaced with the box culvert? Okay.
No.
All right.
This is, as you go north, you go past Jacob. Is it Jacob? And so literally 300 feet past the bridge over the railroad tracks.
Okay.
If you look to the left or
Mhm.
the south side, you'll see the pipes collapsed.
All right.
I have one last question, if I can. We're gonna talk about it later, so it's gonna, just preemptive, but is there anything that could be prolonged for 5 years that we could put some of that money in the meantime into the more important roads? Is there any kind of, mindset of like anything that could be deferred that won't be at risk if it was deferred in any more important way than the roads for the time to get these couple ones taken care of?
In my opinion, no.
In Woodland Road, we're talking about the part closest to Route 9.
The north side,
It's
yes.
really deteriorated.
Correct.
Okay. Thanks. I drive across that all the time.
Yep.
Let me close with Pine Hill Road looks great. The two parts that are done, it was done so well. I think maybe Al and I both live over that way, as most people know. I think he agrees that he told me he thought it was great. The criticism now, I mean, talking about no good deed goes unpunished, is that it's so smooth, people are driving too fast to get because it's so well done. But anyway, it really does look good. The driveways, the way they did them, the landscaping part, the humps. We're getting used to our humps. So I hope they're helping. Vast improvement.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah, I agree. I did recommend that he leave the road closed,
I
but the
will.
neighbors are very pleased. No, more humps.
All right. Does anyone have any other questions for Bill while he's here?
Great.
Well, thanks.
Thank you.
for this update. So moving on to the reports, I don't have anything under chairs reports. Does anyone have anything that they want to mention under members reports? Mark, okay. So on the consent agenda, H, we're gonna table. That's the recommendation for the new AV system for the McAuliffe hearing room. And I'm gonna hold C just to make a highlight a couple things. Anyone else have any other holds?
I'd like to hold D.
Okay,
A.
okay. Any other holds? So the ones that no one held were B, E, F, G, and I. So
Can I hold G, Andrew?
Yes. I move that the board approve consent agenda items B, E, F, and I.
Second,
Oh, we have to do a roll call vote. Dennington, I.
Landry, I.
Hamilton, I.
Fling, aye.
Cook, I.
Okay. Tim, you held the minutes?
Yeah, I held A specifically for the December 2nd minutes.
Okay,
Line 142, it says that not supported by the school. It should be not recommended by the school. They did support it, but they didn't recommend it as the option to move forward. That was the only thing I had.
okay. I move that the board approve the December 2nd minutes as amended.
I'm going to hold on what you just said, Tim. Is that the issue of adding adding fifth grade to Trotter? Wasn't the school committee's pushback on that that they didn't recommend it because in order to do it, it would cost a huge amount of money?
No, it's
They would have to reconfigure a lot of the school in order to do it?
it's an educational alignment. It's more about, they didn't recommend pursuing that because of adding fifth grade to that building. It was supported as educationally viable if there was additions put to Trotter and to Finn. So it wasn't that they don't support it, it's that they don't recommend it, because they did support it during the pre-K to 8 work over the summer. So it's just a clarity piece.
Okay.
Tim, I would add the as educational viable as a modifier to support, just to be clear, because it does make a difference. It does sound like they support doing that when they really don't, but they do recognize it does meet the educational criteria. So I'd add on as educational criteria, that's probably supported, but they don't recommend it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay, so what's the change we're making? So that it's clear for who's ever gonna make the.
Sorry, let me go back to that section. I made a note about it, but not staring at that section. Yeah. So Trotter meets the school committee's educational criteria, but is not recommended by the school committee. I believe is the correct thing. Kathy, do you disagree with just
No,
that
you said,
change?
I think what you just said was perfect.
Okay, yeah, so that's exactly what I said earlier. So the only thing we need to change is, but is not recommended. So change supported to recommended.
Now I'm trying to get you to say it's supported, because it's educational, feasible, whatever you want to say, but put the modifier in there. So, because it sounds weird to say supported and not recommended.
That's what I'm saying. Supported comes out, that's replaced by recommended.
So in context, Kathy, I think it makes sense. So with Tim's edit, it would say, Mr. Fling noted that moving fifth grade to Trotter year meets the school committee's educational criteria, but is not recommended by the school committee.
That's perfect. I think I didn't listen very closely what you just said. That's perfect. I agree.
So I move that the board approve the December 2nd minutes as amended.
Second,
Dennington, aye.
Landry, I.
Fling, aye.
Cook, aye.
And I move no edits to the December 8 minutes. I move that the board approve the December 8 minutes.
I have small scrivener, but
Okay.
second,
Okay. Dennington, aye.
Landry, I.
Hamilton, I.
Fling, aye.
Cook, aye.
Okay, so I held the approval of our meeting schedule for 2026 just because I wanted to highlight there's two off scheduled meetings in January. So we have a lot of meetings in January. We have the regular first and third Tuesday. And then the 13th is the second Tuesday, and that's the joint meeting with capital and advisory about the capital requests for this coming fiscal year. And January 24th is the budget summit. So Tim, are you familiar with the budget summit that we're talking about? So this is a Saturday, and it's like a Super Bowl of budgeting discussions. So it's I don't know that it's all day, but it's a roughly, let's say, 9 a.m. to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And how we typically do it is the biggest departments will come and present their operational budgets, mainly police, fire, DPW, schools. And then we may, after we get the first drafts of the budgets, maybe there might be another department that comes in. But we've done this now for maybe last 4 years. And the goal of it is that instead of having these departments, so they have to make presentations separately to the select board advisory committee and maybe the capital planning committee, we coordinate it so that we meet together. So that's what that's about. Does anyone have any? Oh, and also when we get to the date for the special town meeting, this schedule reflects March 7th as the special town meeting date. Paul Semino is out of town on March 7th, but he is in town on February 28th, Saturday, February 28th, and Jim Hegarty can do it. Jay Tallerman can do it. School's available. So I think that February 28th is going to be our date for the special town meeting. So with those clarifications, I move that we approve the select board meeting schedule through June 30th.
Second,
I have a comment.
Yep.
It may not matter, but the May 19th date, I am more than likely going to be extremely off our time zone. So I don't know if we have any willingness to.
That's so far ahead. I
I know, I'm
thought
just-
about it. We can, as that date gets closer, we can work with you on that.
Okay.
Okay, so motion was made, seconded. Dennington, aye.
Landry, I.
Hamilton, I.
Fling, aye.
Cook, aye.
Okay, and Al, you held item D.
I held item D just because I'm no longer going to rubber stamp these. If we don't review these positions prior to their postings, then I'm going to be a no on them.
Okay, and I know this is a discussion that we had at a prior meeting. I know I had the opportunity to meet the candidate, had a quick Zoom meeting with him. I think he's a pretty impressive guy. Look forward to working with him. So I move that we approve the appointment of the business administrator to the select board treasurer collector.
Second.
Dennington, I.
Landry, I.
Hamilton, no.
Fling, no.
Cook, aye.
All right. Kathy, you held G.
Yeah, I just want to explain this because it's pretty good news. So, years ago, a local resident who I think most people know, Tony Kwan, sold a big chunk of the property that New England Children's Center operates from on Route 9 to them, but he required them to agree to continue to make payments, pilot payments to us, equal to what the real estate taxes were on those properties back then. And they've faithfully done it. So every year we get 2 payments. They're about $105,000. I am working with them to increase those by our budget increase every year. So that's kind of my job at this point. But it's a nice, I think this is a good model to work with as far as future property that not-for-profits may want to acquire, that we continue to ask them to make these payments if they want to take further taxable property off the tax rolls. And I've talked to both schools about this, Fay and St. Mark's. They're not willing to sign on a dotted line, but I think they get it. But anyway, this is, we get $105,000 a year because of the efforts of Tony Kwan.
I move that we accept the pilot donation from New England Center for Children.
Second.
Dennington, I.
Landry, I.
Hamilton, I.
Fling, aye.
Cook, aye.
Okay, I think that's it for the consent agenda, right? All right, so under other matters, the next item is the continued discussion on Neary School. I think the first thing that we could deal with that's probably pretty straightforward is just finalizing the date for the special town meeting. So as I mentioned, the March 7th date doesn't work, but for the moderator, but February 28th does work for everyone involved. Is that date good with everyone?
Well, as you know, I think this is premature, and I do not believe we'll be effectively ready. But mechanically, it works.
Mechanically, it works. Okay. Kathy, do you have any comment about it?
No, it's 10 o'clock, right? 10 a.m. Is that our time?
Jim Haggerty is shaking his head. Yes.
No, I'm fine with it.
Okay. So I move that we set the date and time for the special town meeting as Saturday, February 28th at 10 a.m. at Trotter.
Second.
Roll call vote, Dennington, aye.
Landry, I.
Hamilton, I.
Fling, aye.
And Cook?
Okay.
Okay. So on actually as to the topics for the meeting, and this was reflected in the note in the minutes of the meeting that we had with schools and CIPC and advisory. The board voted to approve taking the three options to special town meeting. And Margaret, Vanessa, could you put up on the screen the Word document that I had? So I put together just a one-page Word document that I took a stab at writing down how you could present these options. And it's just open for discussion how we actually structure this. I want to hear what people have to say about how I kind of phrase this. This is obviously not, language you would have in the warrant, but it's just captures kind of the ideas. So the way I had put this, you could have an article that first asked town meeting, do you want to authorize funding for schematic design for renovation of Neary at the existing site, feasibility study with cost estimates for expanding Finn to 4 grades and closing Neary as a school. And I put in parentheses that would include consideration of Article 97 issues and environmental considerations of, Finn and its proximity to the highway. And a feasibility study with cost estimates for moving 5th grade to Trotter and moving a grade to Finn. And some of those considerations would be the septic and wetlands issues at that site. So that's the article that would basically would see if town meeting wants to study all of those. And then you break those down into, if it passes, then there's no need to deal with these articles that ask for them to be individually funded. And then the last article is authorizing funding for the immediate repair of the roof. And I think that we should know very soon figures that would be.
Andrew, we actually know now.
We don't know now.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
We know now.
Yeah, Marguerite, where did you get the study?
The ramp study,
Yeah.
I got it from Keith Lavoy, but he told me that the amount cited in this may not agree with what the most recent estimate is, which will be available to us in January.
Okay, what did you put on email today?
The ramp study from the.
Okay,
government.
how old is it?
It is June 26, 2025.
Yeah, that I've seen that report before, but
Okay.
Kathy.
All right, so never mind, Andrew. I thought that was the new one. Okay.
No, I thought it was too, but it isn't. It's gonna be, it'll be superseded by whatever the January one is.
All right, so I beg your pardon.
No, a reasonable question.
Okay. So I'll just open it up, and I know Al, you have a different view of this, and I know you have a short presentation that you wanna make about this, but I don't know, anyone want to speak to this? Tim?
I think that this generally gets across the options of what I said in my initial motion at the end of that meeting. And it covers the way that I would like to do Article 1, where they're all 3 in 1. A couple words in this that have me have pause is it says feasibility study only in the way that
Yeah.
it's written. I would do feasibility and up to or schematic design.
Yeah.
It kind of includes an up to element to it, because obviously if the feasibility says that there's a major issue that we cannot overcome, it may not make sense to keep going. But I want the idea to be, we get everything done here, apples to apples. And that would be the idea. In C of the Article 1 that we were showing, we need to include for cost estimates for expanding Trotter and Finn to move 5th grade to Trotter. So we need to make sure that it says the expansions, because without them, we're pretty sure this isn't even a viable consideration.
Okay, say that again, Tim. What do you want to see for Article 4 in C?
It would be Article 1C, and I guess it would be also Article 4. I don't know if I necessarily would have to see it written down this way to agree with it, because I think that the point would be that it would come out in the study. But I would think the expectation is expanding Trotter and Finn to move 5th grade.
Well, we're not finalizing this tonight. Andrew's just throwing this out there as a starting point, so he's kind of got it outlined. But I agree with you as far as what to do there. And Andrew, I agree with Tim. We need to put schematic in B and C, because without schematic, you know what the cost is. Since the joint meeting we had with Capital and Advisory and School, Eric Glazer has called me, and I think maybe he's called Andrew too, and he wanted to make the following point, which is for the two that are going to be difficult to truly get our arms around because of separate issues, Article 97 for Finn, and possibly at least a septic at Trotter. As he says in this direct quote, you can do anything with enough money. So I'd say that what we're trying to do with B and C is, get a number for doing it, regardless of what it costs. It may be something outrageous if you really have to spend a lot of time and money doing Article 97. It could be outrageous if you've got to put a whole new septic system, if it's even possible at Trotter. But just cost out the whole thing so people really understand what the cost of the project would be and what it would entail. And don't stop even if it looks like it's difficult. But the schematic is, it's a floor plan, right? It shows you the size of the building, shows you the rooms, et cetera. You're going to have to do that on all three to truly cost this out. So I agree with Tim. We got to put schematic in B and C.
Okay,
I had a question.
yes.
Where it says authorize funding for all of these, are there amounts in there or?
No, that's
caps?
obviously a very, very important part of this.
Yes.
And I have been working to try to get the numbers that would be associated with each of those. And that may affect, what we ultimately decide to, as a board, how we, what we recommend, but we don't have those numbers yet.
So, I have, two concerns. One, I think there are two versions of a Neary renovation. There is the, full soup to nuts. We turn Neary into a building that's going to be a school for 30, 40, what years, some number of years. And there is what I would describe as the intermediate option, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, where we do what it takes to keep Neary as a reasonable school for 15 years, based on what I believe are the demographic trends that we're likely to see. The second one is I still quite strongly believe that we need to give the architects clear financial guidance on a not to exceed number. I know the board doesn't want to do that. Right now I'm inclined to offer that as amendments on the floor. I can't in good conscience hand a blank check to architects anymore, because I think we'd be making the same mistake we made before.
You mean for the studies?
No, but this is a not to exceed for the entire project, because the last program failed because it was simply too expensive. It wasn't lack of options. Lack of options was a reason, but it failed because it was too expensive. And I think we need to demonstrate that we've heard that, and we are trying to toe a fiscal line here. I think it's irresponsible not to. So, but at your pleasure, I'd be happy to talk about the demographics and why I believe there are at least two different options.
Sure.
Is it convenient?
Andrew, let me just interject here why it's relevant. I don't agree with giving the architects a cap or a budget. Contrary to what Mr. Hamilton said, our past architects were not given a blank check by any stretch of the imagination. Go back and listen to the meetings and you see where, especially Andrew Pfaff and I harped and harped and harped and harped on the cost. We ended up with a project that MSBA said was the most efficient project that they have seen in years. And you can prove it by looking at similar projects that went at the same time that had more square foot than we did for the same amount of students. So they were not given a blank check. At the very end, we did everything we could as far as design, build, and take out costs there. So we moved the cost down from $148 million to $108 million. But the architects were certainly not given a blank check. But if you start off and say, this is what our cap is, and you just can't do it because building costs are just so high. They are just crazy high, and there's nothing we can do about what it costs to build a municipal building. We can certainly design build. We can ask for, not put anything in other than what we really need. But the actual base construction costs are what we have to live with, and they're high. So to just make up a number and give it to them without us knowing what things really cost, without having the expertise to know, which we don't, none of us do, I think is just asking for it not to happen. If they can't do it, then we've wasted all that time. So I think they come back with what it really takes to build the buildings the way we've asked them to do it, and we then make a decision based on what those numbers are. But to start off with giving them a budget that is probably unrealistic, I think is a wrong way to do this.
Yeah, I'm simply unwilling, unwilling to spend feasibility money for where we end up asking for a sum of money, which we believe the voters will not approve. So that's where I stand on that. But if it's all right, I can.
Well, Tim wanted to just.
Al, I'm extremely appreciative of that point, and I believe there might be a middle ground to a hard limit and more of a directional discussion in it, where we could say that when we look at the data, we can look at how it affects taxes and all that, and actually come back with a realistic number of how we stay below, overrides and whatnot, and say the town could reasonably assume it could afford this number. And that would be the number that we represent here. We're not saying you have to stick with it, but we're saying like, this is the number that we think a project would be approved by. So during the feasibility studies, there's a general idea that's known that if it's above that number, it's probably going to be a harder sell. If it's within that number, it would be an easier sell. So we don't necessarily give it a rail, but we give it some level of a guideline of where we're trying and hoping that this project and this numbers and everything can come in, that we can plan the project around like an overall target that we think we can ultimately get approved. I think there's legitimacy to maybe approaching it in that manner versus a hard ceiling. At least that way we have a knowledge of like what this will do to our taxes long-term with the rest of our capital projects we have coming down the pike.
I don't disagree with you. I think the point is that if we're going, that we need to make the electorate understand that we got the message and that there is an ability to pay, and that if we're considering options above that ability to pay, then we're just whistling Dixie.
Yeah, but who makes the determination of ability to pay? One person? I mean, what you may willing to be able to pay, I don't want to pay as much, or I want to pay more. So it's just an arbitrary number. Tim, this is not going to be an override. This is a debt exclusion. So this is not going to cause an override. You would
Okay, well,
exclude the debt.
we know that the electorate weren't very happy about paying somewhere between 60 and $70 million. I think they told us that very clearly, unambiguously.
Well, because they
So
didn't necessarily
that's-
have,
that-
they didn't have the facts, Al. There was a lot of misinformation. So let's hope this time that that's not the case.
I'm not going to be out there trying to sell a $60 million program.
Well, but on the other hand, if for instance, an example, if it turns out that adding another grade on to Trotter is possible, but it's going to cost $80 million, then that's good data to have, though, isn't it? I mean, that it would be cost prohibitive.
Right, and if we say that we have, that this is our budget, I built a addition on my house the other day, or last year, and I had a budget, and, we got to say what our budget is and what we're willing to pay. And, if we say we want to do project 1, 2, or 3, and we have a budget of this much, and no competent architect comes back and says, well, we think we could do it for that much, then we've kind of been told about the feasibility of that option. But I'm just, if we're going to do it the same way we did it last time, we ought to be trying to make new mistakes, not repeat the same ones we've made in the past.
I agree. And another
I
question.
totally agree with that. I just disagree on what the mistakes were. Again, if the information had been honestly discussed, I don't think we would be where we are tonight. But I'm going to say again, go back and listen to the meetings, which I don't think anyone on this committee participated in, and you'll see how hard we pushed on the budget. And again, your addition on your house, you got to hire private contractors that don't have municipal wage laws they have to comply with. Municipal buildings cost a lot to build. All you got to do is look at the projects going through the state right now, and you're going to find a couple $1 billion school projects. So we're stuck with that. So I think there's just no reason to make up an arbitrary number for the architects. They will be told we want this to be as efficient as possible. No, nothing fancy. We just want to get the job done. But making up a number without an understanding of what the costs really are, which we don't. I mean, I do, but I don't think anybody else does here. Is just, I think, an exercise in futility. I don't think we put that cap in there. So, amend away, but I'm not going to support that at the outset.
So I want to give Al an opportunity to speak to his points, the just 4 slides that he has, but just, I want to emphasize that the thing which I just showed up here, this is something that we as a board voted for 5-0 at the last meeting. So I think you're changing your position a little bit between
I think what I
That's
said
a-
was I didn't really have all the information. In fact, I said I wanted to meet with the demographer because that
Okay.
sort of informs my opinion. And, you know, yes, consistency is the hobgoblin of small minds. So, you know, I probably have evolved my position.
Fair enough. So
Vanessa?
Can I ask a question in here also?
well, you're getting ahead of about the slides there.
Oh, the-
So I would just let him.
So we can go to the next slide. So I had a long conversation with RLS, the demographer who did the demographic projections. Actually, it was a very interesting and enlightening discussion. I do want to make it clear that this work is now mine and mine alone. It is not the position of RLS, but I have been informed by them. So a couple of things that I've been able to sort of determine with a little more data than was available to RLS. Births in Southborough are on the rise, and they're running about 10% higher than they were 5 to 8 years ago. In 2024, we had 114 births in the town of Southborough, which is up quite a bit. This year, we're currently at 99 through the end of November, which means, you know, a reasonable estimate for 2025 is about 108. There are, sorry, I can't see that one. And this one. These are the children of the generation that would have passed through Neary in the late 90s and early aughts. The parents, these are the parents who left, a parent who left Neary in 2000 is now 36 or 37 years old. And these are the children of essentially that first wave of the baby boom. So what we are experiencing at the moment is effectively the second echo of the baby boom. It's the children of the baby boomers' children. The longer term trend is for birth rates below the 2.1 replacement rate. The RLS used 1.6. So the near-term increases that we are seeing are transitory. The longer-term trend is for lower school age populations, probably lower than our current populations. So in the late 90s and the early aughts, I haven't gotten used to saying that yet, the turn of the century, we overbuilt our school infrastructure. And we can see that today because we have empty classes in all, empty rooms in all 4 of our buildings. And if we engage in a major construction project, major 3-school construction project based on the numbers that we have in front of us today, we are likely to overbuild again. And this will result in a very inefficient deployment of scarce capital resources. And those capital resources are scarce. You just heard the head of the DPW who's looking for $20 million, which all got to come out of the same pool. The current 4-school footprint can easily accommodate the expected second wave of the baby boom, or the second echo of the baby boom. 15 years from now is roughly the right time frame. You know, can you go back? Yeah, 15 years from now is roughly the right time frame to right size our school infrastructure and probably move to a 3-school system based on having that second echo pass through the system, just as the first echo passed through the system in the late 90s and early aughts. The optimum, in my opinion, the optimum allocation of our scarce capital resources is a plan for Neary that keeps the school building functional for 15 years. And at that point, it can be demolished or transitioned into another use. I think that also coincides roughly with when we're going to have to make some major decisions about Finn. So next slide, please. So from my perspective, the most capital efficient plan is to put a roof on Neary ASAP, regardless of the 30% ADA threshold, to remove and replace the asbestos components, and to do the ADA compliance. All of that will cost money. But do paint and paper for the interior. What we should avoid is modifications that would trigger the energy codes, because that's when we'll start spending a lot of money. So in effect, what we don't want to do is move walls, demolish walls, or open them up. Then the question becomes, what do you do about sprinklers? And I think it's important to note that sprinklers protect the building, not the occupants. The occupants are protected by an effective evacuation plan. The sprinklers protect the building. I'm not sure that's a building that's worth protecting, but that's something we can certainly talk about. This type of plan, I think, is fiscally prudent. It definitely requires some additional vetting, and I think we should place this type of a plan before the voters and as an option going forward. You know, that's it. Yeah, I think this is, you know, I think this is consistent with what I believe the most recent view of demographic trends is, and that's my 2 cents.
All right, thanks. I guess my quick reaction is, or 2 reactions. One, what we voted for at the last meeting of presenting these options to town meeting, this is simply finding out how much it would cost to do a full renovation of Neary, right? There's a later debate about which building project you ultimately want to do. You know, this is reminding me of the comment that one of the parents at the meeting made, how they were not going to vote for a roof replacement because it would be used to justify keeping the building in its current condition. That's really what this is, I think.
It is addressing the immediate objections to the building. You know, it is.
So
It
it's
is.
basically Article 2.
Well, so Article 2 is vague, and I say maybe there's there's really 2 choices here. One is a full gut and rebuild of Neary, which would then, you know, we'd be triggering the energy codes, we'd be upgrading the electrical systems, upgrading, you know, a variety of components, and that I think we have some data to suggest would be, if at least the NBC suggested, was in the $60 million range in the past estimates. I think this proposal would be significantly less, but it addresses our medium-term needs. So they're really 2 very different projects.
But it says Article 2, if I can read for the people listening, authorize funding for schematic design for renovation of Neary School at existing site, 2 grades.
Well, the intent of that is really, I think Al is correct that these are different ideas, and that the
How is
intent of
how is
that is for the full renovation.
Complete renovation from top to
It
bottom.
doesn't say complete renovation, it just says renovation. You
Well,
can-
the intention is for a complete renovation to make it as new as possible within the footprint.
We're missing expected lifespan within these options. So in the spirit of that option, it was for a 40+ year term.
But it doesn't say that.
It doesn't say it, but in the
Oh, we
spirit
can add
of
it.
where we picked up on it today, it was for a 40+ year existence for what that would cost and fund.
So in other words, what I'm seeing on this, in these warrant articles, at no point does it say what Al has suggested, which is a satisfactory for the time being renovation of Neary.
No, that's not one of the choices there. That's a true statement.
Well, then why isn't Al's choice that on there? Because I think that also agrees with part of what at least the school department is supporting, is to fix Neary up.
No, Marguerite, they're not at all. They are supporting a complete renovation of Neary, two grade
Because I
school.
think we have to stipulate what kind of renovation we're talking here.
I'm perfectly happy to just to clarify, it's a complete renovation.
Okay, so the complete renovation.
I think we should just put down, instead of complete renovation or whatever, just put a time frame for what it should solve. Because that's really what we're talking about, is how long will this option
That's
be
fine.
viable?
Because there's two
yeah, so-
renovation options.
So I was in what Al's last plan was before I'd started doing a ton of extra research on this topic.
Mhm.
And I don't know if that option actually could be even done because of that 30% building cost. I think we would trigger, I know sprinklers get triggered at 30% of the building's value. That was one of the things that was gonna come up. There was a whole bunch of other things too that fall down into that. And if we did the kitchen to make that a full cooking kitchen, you know, that's an argument you'd make, is, does it stay a warming kitchen or does it become a full cooking kitchen? You need to do a huge amount of effort in that area with HVAC systems and makeup air and fire suppression and some other codes. So like, that'd be,
But how long do we want? the
So
kids-
as I said,
Yeah.
we need some more work to flesh
Yeah.
this out. Initially, I would assume
yeah,
that it stayed a warming kitchen,
yeah.
and I need clarity on, whether we actually have a choice with respect to sprinklers.
Yeah, I mean,
There's,
I don't know numbers, and I'm not gonna say a specific number, but off my research through the summer would be like a third of what it would cost to do the full thing to meet these criteria for 15 years. That's my own somewhat educated opinion of knowing what I looked at all summer. But I would think it's probably gonna be more, which is why I moved away from this as a more viable myself for 15-year plan to
Well,
get us to the fin alignment. I was thinking a fin alignment for all the schools,
if you believe that this is a third of the cost of,
at least a
that-
third.
it might be half. I don't.
Yeah.
know. No, but I think this is an option which needs to be considered. I think this is, as I said, I believe this is the most capital efficient, because I think 15 years from now, we're going to be moving to a 3-school system regardless, because the demographic trends, at least as far as they exist today, suggest that our student populations will continue to decline. And so
So Al, does this mean that we need to add another option to this warrant for a partial/temporary, more economical renovation to Neary?
that would be my recommendation.
All right?
So, Kristen Lavalde has a hand raised.
I haven't had a chance, Andrew. Let me
Sure,
talk.
okay,
please.
sorry.
Okay, let the board talk before we bring anybody else. So a couple things. Going out beyond 10 years as far as demographic studies, the demographers will tell you that is a risky business. There's a lot more to demographics than the total fertility rate. There's a lot of other variables in it, including the migration rate. Nobody knew about COVID, what that would do to people moving around. So that's why they do the studies for 10 years, because they don't feel comfortable going out past 10 years. So this idea that we know for a fact that in 15 years, we're going to have come back down, I think is something that is not appropriate to rely on, maybe, but maybe not. If you go back and look at the studies that we've done in the past, sometimes they were close, sometimes they weren't. There's those things that come into play that no one understood and went a different way. Second, big picture, Southborough is known as a place that has a great school system. People move here because of school system, which we want. We want people to move. We want young people to move in so that they buy the houses that people who have want to downsize, want to sell. So this idea that bringing forth a project that we just literally do as little as possible for as long as possible, in the hope that the population goes down in 15 years, I think is not necessarily the right way to approach this, which is why the school committee does not support this. So Marguerite, make sure you understand this. The school committee does not approach what Alice is, they do not want what Alice is describing. They want to fix the school once and for all, so it's going to last 40 or 50 years. So I do not support at all bringing forth a project, and I don't even know how you expect an architect to cost out something you're just going to do a little bit at a time with what you have to do. I also do believe what Tim said, that the cost of doing this would be a big percentage of what it would cost to redo the whole thing and do it correctly. So the idea that you're just going to have a warming kitchen instead of having a real kitchen for a school, I don't know why we would do this. So I will support anything the town wants to do, but I don't believe that bringing forth a project that just hopes that the school population is going to go down in 15 years is the right way to go. I think the three that we have identified are the three that we should cost out and bring forth. But let me also remind you, so again, I didn't know what Marguerite put on the email today was old. I thought it was new, so I didn't look at the date. But if you read it, that roof's got to go. I mean, the next study is going to even be worse, I'm sure, when we get that next month. So that was $3.5 to $4 million. And it says the roof cannot be, that you can't do anything anymore. It's too far gone. You got to replace it. So I think we're going to replace this roof no matter what in April. I don't see how we avoid doing that. I don't care what we do. Because even if you're the most optimistic, so let's say the special town meeting, the articles, let's say they all fly through, we get them all approved. We're going to cost out 3 projects. The earliest we'd have that done would be September. So that's September of 26. Then we bring back to another special town meeting. We pick one and we get the funding to actually finish the architect's work, the actual construction design, and hire the OPM. That's going to take another year. So now we're at September 27th. It's a 2-year construction project. So that's September of 29. If we did everything as fast as we could before a new project would be finished. So to keep talking about how to do this, I think we've got to agree tonight on these 3, one way or the other, or not, so that we really get this thing going, so we get a project approved and started as soon as possible. The school committee's letter to us basically said, okay, we'll go along with possibly moving kids out during the construction, but we want to know there's a project and it's approved, so we move them out no more than 2 years. They don't want to do that, but they're going to have to move them out if we do the Neary project. So I mean, we're talking September 29, even tonight, if we were to go forward as fast as we can.
So Tim raised his hand, but just one additional reason why, Al, I think something that affects your analysis that makes me less confident that in 15 years, we absolutely know that we can demolish Neary, we will have too much space, is that there still are opportunities to move existing town departments into some of the extra space in schools. And there's been a lot of discussion about that, and that may be the most efficient way for us to use the buildings that we have right now. Tim?
I think we as a board just have the obligation to bring a plan forward for this special meeting that would solve this problem for a long time. I did a lot of thinking about what Al showed here, and I didn't see a viable path forward. I'm not saying we shouldn't look at it more, but I'm much more in favor of throwing a financial guardrail number out and say we would like this project not to be exceeding this number, just as like it's not really written into the contract, it's not written into the study, it's just more of a guidance from us that says we think that the town has an appetite for these numbers. We do some work there, see how that affects our taxes long term, and just try to have a better approach to what the project would cost and keep that as guidance that we think. But I don't really think we should bring an option to town meeting right now that doesn't solve this problem permanently. Well, I mean, honestly, complete renovation, A, B, or C, complete renovation of Neary School, expanding. I think what I heard from my summer work is that we expand Finn, we expand Troutier, and then you can solve it with that particular option. Or renovate the building the way it sits. So, we get 3 viable options here that all meet the criteria, that all the work we did this summer, that schools support. It may not be recommended to move fifth grade right now, but that's a discussion we'd have if we fund it and we want to see what that actually costs and see what the appetite is. But I think that we have 3 viable paths. They solve this problem for the long term,
And the school department accepts.
supports it. Yeah, and we don't make a compromise. What happens if these don't pass at town meeting? Then we talk about what Al's proposal is, because that's literally what's coming next. So, but I think in the meantime, we try to give a little bit of a financial guardrail. Maybe Brian can give us some kind of ideas of what this affects taxes at, where numbers fall. Maybe we find different criteria within there. Maybe we ask another study, what project, what could you afford on your taxes? I don't know what we do in the meantime, but there's so many options we can do to get better information from the town about what people could afford, more than just anecdotal, that we could at least react to what those are. But I do think that we give guidance along the way here and at least try to say, like, we think that these numbers could pass.
Okay, and can I just jump in quickly before this
Yep.
gets lost in the discussion? In terms of Article 5, authorizing funding for immediate repair of Neary roof. I have heard some person say that why would we pop a roof on there if we're going to do a serious renovation afterwards? So I talked to a couple of people who are knowledgeable about roofs who work for the town. And I was told that in terms of putting later HVAC on top, if you put a membrane roof down and you do it correctly, if you were going to construct bigger HVAC on top of that, like a year and a half later or whatever, it's possible to put the footings in such a way that it doesn't impact the insurance on the roof, that you can take the part of the roof that has been impacted by the new HVAC and take it out of the insurance on the roof. So if someone stands up at town meeting and says, why are we putting a roof on it if we're just going to poke holes in it to put better HVAC on it in a year and a half, the answer is, yes, you can do that. Okay.
So, as far as knowing, what the world will look like in 15 years, I was in the economic forecasting business. In fact, when I talked to the folks at RLS, he was the demographer at the time when I was building the economic forecasting models for the state of New York. And there's no certainty with respect to a forecast 15 years from now. But what you do have to do is operate on the best available information. And the best available information that exists today is that birth rates are declining. Birth rates for both people who are current residents and for those who are likely to migrate, that is to move into town. Those birth rates have been declining. That comes from the Congressional Budget Office. It comes from the U.S. Census Service. It comes from the Donahue Institute at the University of Massachusetts. And the demographers at RLS all agreed that the long-term trend that we believe today, that what the future looks like, is for declining birth rates. And that 1.6 number is a reasonable estimate of what those rates are going to be. Now, we are seeing this transitory increase because we are seeing the second wave of the baby boom, the second echo of the baby boom. But that's, in fact, what we discussed was that was likely to be relatively short-lived, that in fact, that first wave is beginning to age out. So we have to make decisions based on the best information that's available. That is, I think, the best information that's available is that we should expect continued declines. And, if we engage in a major building project, I think we're going to find ourselves in the same boat we're in now, where, we have overcommitted capital resources to physical school buildings, and that has left us in a suboptimal consideration. As far as, I think this is a reasonable way to proceed. This is the way I would advocate. I guess I'm going to say one more thing, which no one will want to hear, but between the school committee and the prior select board, there was exactly one person who was in tune with what the voters wanted. and that was me. Everybody else wanted to spend a lot of money on a big, beautiful school. And I'm a fiscal conservative, yes, I know. But yeah, I'm going to struggle to be willing to advocate for something that's going to cost us over $60 million because the voters said no. The voters, town meeting said no overwhelmingly, and the voters said no overwhelmingly. And I'm sorry, but there wasn't a lot of misinformation. What there was sticker shock. And, we can call it, everybody's trying to rewrite history and say, well, the voters were misinformed. The voters aren't stupid. They know what those taxes were going to be. If you want to call the voters dumb, be my guest. So,
So no one's.
I'm done. I've got off.
This is definitely debating, past things. I'm just thinking about how to make progress step by step by step. And since we voted at the last meeting to present the three options, I tried to put together language that reflected that. And I think the next step is we should, one of the things that we could accomplish this meeting is refine that. I mean, Kathy made some suggestions, Tim made some, I can work that in so that the next draft, the next meeting reflects more consensus. I know you have a different view, but we are where we are. So I view the next step as we obviously need to get dollar figures attached to how much is a realistic amount to ask town meeting to actually accomplish these objectives.
Where are we getting that from?
Well, I don't have the capability to do it, but I've really been relying on the schools, and I don't have any.
Can we talk to any of the consultants directly from the NBC days? Can we just ask them to quote this?
Absolutely, and we already have.
Okay.
So what I was told, so I called the OPM, Jim Burles, and he said, and I said three options, so I had the number back there. He said he thought if we hired Arrow Street, which was the architect for the Vail project, it would be, he thought about $750,000, $250 per. He thought if we start from scratch with someone new that would have to get up to speed, he'd be at probably $1 million for the three. So his numbers were between $750,000 and $1 million to get this done.
All right. So we do have a couple, I feel like we've discussed this vigorously as a board, so we can now take some public comment. Kirsten Lavalde was the first, had her hand raised.
Thank you, Andrew. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'll try to keep it brief. Mr. Hamilton is correct. He is in tune with the voters. Not all voters, certainly. This is obviously a tough topic, but very much in tune with a lot of the voters. And my request to you would be vote to add the option. The town wants options. Why not put it into the citizens' hands instead of your own on your opinions based on the facts that you provided? Great facts, but your opinions on demographic information and how we should take that into account, for example, like that's your personal opinion. We may have others. And so I think it's a disservice of the citizens not to put it on there as an option. I understand administratively you took the vote last time, but that's okay. We made a vote last time, we can change course. The second thing I'll say, and I won't reiterate everything Mr. Hamilton said, but just to add, we need to step out of our Southborough bubble. We are facing an economy that is completely uncertain, a government that's completely uncertain, and it doesn't matter which way you fall politically. We're facing an unemployment rate at the highest in 4 years at 4.6%. By the way, personal to me, I'm currently unemployed. I know a lot of very successful people in town facing the same thing. So there's not only uncertainty maybe on the demographics, although I agree we have to rely on facts. We're facing extreme economic uncertainty. I am so relieved that we did not pass the new school because of the tax impact, where most people are not even sure they can afford the just annual tax impact from town meeting. So that needs to be a consideration as well. I don't think anyone can argue that we are in extremely uncertain times, and it's only the very privileged people that can ignore that. So to not put this option on, you are disserving a population within Southborough. Thank you.
Thanks. And Mike Newt also has his hand raised.
Hi, how's it going?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear, sorry, can you hear me now?
Yep. Yes, we can.
Okay. Did you hear me in my introduction or?
Oh, yeah.
I'm on
yeah,
the
Mike-
capital planning committee, so,
Yes.
and 49 Wildwood Drive, sorry.
Yes.
I wanted to comment about the Al's option that it's not, you know, there is at least that option of replacing the roof only now and then planning in 15 years or so for, you know, both the replacement of Neary and Finn at the same time. And just from like a pure capital perspective, that has a certain efficiency to it because, you know, one of the things that I think was not talked about a lot, but still on people's mind with the plan that failed was that, you know, it ultimately required kind of cutting the life of Finn short. And, you know, it might have been a bargain with the MSBA money, but, you know, there was the sense that it wasn't necessary. And if you recall, the option that was, you know, initially considered was replacing Woodward, but that was built so recently that there was not an appetite for that. And so the lifespans of these schools are like offset by 20 years where, you know, it never really makes sense to discontinue any of them. But if we are able to like just do the roof and extend the life of Neary for 15 years or so, and then consider the Neary and Finn options together, that would be like a much more cost-effective way to move to the 3-school model that the school committee wants. And it would be, I think, a lot more palatable to the voters. I mean, obviously that means like having this kind of rundown Neary with a new roof for another 15 years, but you know, it's only 2 grades of the 12 that the kids go through. So there's, you know, I'm at least from a financial perspective, amenable to that argument. The other thing is that there are like roof options that aren't $4 million that are a little bit, you know, shorter lifespan. So that, you know, if it at least opens the door to something that is pretty much probably likely under the 30% threshold. So, you know, at least an option worth considering that has some long-term strategic benefits if we want to get a new school built and move to a 3-school model at some point, you know, with the town on board. There's advantages to it. That's all.
Okay. Patty?
Hi, good evening. I'm trying to understand one thing about your article concerning the Trotter School renovation, that you're asking for a feasibility study that is taking into consideration a septic issue. So I'd like a little understanding of what that septic issue is. I'm looking at actually the data from the original school building committee. And it says that Trotter has a projected enrollment of 487, which we know is just the 3 grades. And it has a septic capacity for 720. So back in last spring when there were some open meetings and such, there was actually some misinformation put out by one of the members of the school building committee who said in more than one meeting that the septics at all the schools were at capacity and nearing failure. And I looked into that a little bit. I talked to the health department and the town. I actually asked Jason for the capital needs for the next 10 years, the capital report, to understand if these septics were at capacity and nearing failure. Why was none of that on any capital report or capital incentive that we were going to need to be funding? And it is not. And as I said, the septic capacity of Trotter is 720. The occupancy permit is at 1,200. And the current projected enrollment or the projected enrollment for 2030 was at 487. So I'd like to have a little understanding of why that is the priority on that line item for town meeting, that the septic is an issue.
Patty, I can't speak to this at an expertise level, but I understand right now there's a variance on the use of that building. I don't know why exactly the variance exists and how it came to be, but I do know there is a variance on lowering the threshold per student right now. I don't know what caused that variance to need to happen, so I would have to defer that to somebody else, but that was part of the discussion recently. And the root cause of needing that variance is the driving factor of this. I don't know what's driving that.
But what, don't you think we should have an answer to that? If it's actually telling us that the septic capacity is well within the range of any expansion, what exactly is a variance? Who requested that? When was it put in place? And what exactly is it? Because that wasn't part of any of the discussions. Excuse me, I apologize for my voice. That was not part of any of the discussions during the original building committee meetings.
I don't know the exacts, but I agree. We definitely need more clarity around it. I don't know if Roger, if you have any more details of that particular variance and how it came to be, but I wasn't in those conversations, so I'm not positive on it right now.
I think that would make a big difference in how that article is presented, because the way that it is being presented, and I totally agree with what Al was saying in regard to presenting this, and Kathy actually said it as well, that to present it as apples versus apples, that you need to present to people multiple opportunities to do something with our schools and give them the option to vote on that. But we need to examine each in an equal position. And I think this is a unanswered question. You can't put that in the article if you can't give an explanation for it.
So Patty, I'm going to only say what I know, which is not that much, but I've always heard about septic issues at Trotter. They had trouble perking when they first built it. So just put that aside. We can get to that. And yes, there is an exception. The flow is supposed to be 28 gallons per day per student, and we've got an exception down to 8, I believe is the number. I don't know why. The septic at Woodward should be fine. It's new. It's what was built with the public safety building. It's shared with the public safety building. It should be fine. Neary, we were told by the architects there was a lot of work done on that septic system. So with the new building, it was going to be a brand new septic system. That one is at the end of its life. Don't know anything about Finn. So I think that the statement that I'm not sure who made that they were all at the end of the life. I'm not sure if that's true, because I know it's not true for Woodward. So we just need to get to the bottom of what's going on with Trotter. I know no more than what Tim said. The numbers you said, I believe you. So I don't know why there is concern about the septic system at Trotter.
I appreciate that. And I'm happy to discuss that with you privately and let you know who made that comment and steer you to recorded video of when it was made.
I believe you. I assume it wasn't me, because I wouldn't have known to say
So
that.
Patty,
No, it was not you.
Okay.
My other concern is that as I think Al and Kristen made perfectly clear, when we had 2 votes in the spring, there was very large concern about the cost and how this was going to affect our taxes. And I would really, we've always been presented with this plan of what the school committee and what the school board want. And as Kristen said, we're looking at a very variable economy coming upon us. And I would suggest that the school board and the school committee should talk to us about their needs and not just about their wants. Because maybe then taxpayers could get accustomed to that or get behind something where they're coming in with a reasonable plan and not just a list of wants. I mean, obviously, I think everyone in this town agrees something has to move forward in regard to these schools and in regard to specifically Neary. But when we just hear about this dream scenario of a brand new school and all that it could include, it's foreign language. You have to bring this into a reality that people can afford. We're looking at a tax increase and a 2.5 override on just funding our government in this town. Please, we have to have some realistic expectations of what people can afford. I just ask you to consider that and ask the school board and the school committee to come back to us with a realistic plan of needs and not just wants. Thank you.
So Patty, to your original point, the really intent of the first article is to study all three on the same footing. So I'll just take your comment as consideration when the next time when you have a draft of this.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't think anyone else has their hand raised. So it's about 8:36, and I know Tim has an issue where he needs to leave by 9. So with that, I'd like to move to the last item on the agenda, which is our annual summary of department accomplishments. I know we've each been handed one to read, and I don't know who's going to go first, or we haven't organized it that much. All right, so maybe I'll just go first. So here's a quick list of things that our board and the select board department has gotten done this year. Town was awarded a one-stop grant in the amount of $30,000 for the downtown Southborough branding and wayfinding project, and that's good news because that's our first successful application for a one-stop grant. For the first time in several decades, the town bid for and is now onboarding a new health insurance consultant, Borislaw. We put on the fall town meeting warrant a zoning amendment that passed that allows the town to, that had a zoning change that allows Costco to proceed with their proposed development on Route 9. We made progress on the Metro West Regional Emergency Communication Center, and Mark, as our town administrator, continues to serve as our local representative of that. We had the executive director of REC before us a couple months ago to explain the progress on that. We townhouse now has an EV charging station because we approved an easement for National Grid for that. There was a lot of comings and goings, so we recruited and onboarded a new building commissioner, although it's really like a new old building commissioner. Council on Aging outreach coordinator, program manager and director, new deputy town clerk and benefit and payroll coordinator, and other support staff. We've been supporting the wastewater planning ad hoc committee that's met multiple times and applied for grants and continues to get information with state officials to move forward on this. And also collaborated with the Tricentennial Committee to establish the Friends Group that's managing the fundraising for the celebratory events that are going to take place in 2027, including a grand parade on October 10th, 2027. So Marguerite.
Thank you. I have the library and the Board of Health. The library successes this year include the development of new service projects that saw a large number of local teams participating. The library continued to build new connections with community partners like Project CASA, which supports youth in the foster care system, and Pine Street Inn, which helps with at-risk individuals experiencing homelessness. These efforts had regular contributions from library volunteers. The library also led successful educational programs such as Girls Who Code, where teens learned and practiced fun coding projects, and Reading Buddies, where older kids partnered with younger readers to help them practice reading and promote literacy. The library also had success with programs for multi-generational audiences, with popular events like seasonal puzzle races and a new mini art exhibition, which had participants range in ages from 5 to 85. One highlight of the year in the Children's Library was the holding of for the fourth year of a summer cartooning camp, which I highly recommend. This popular program, led by author Jonathan Todd, is a 5-day camp covering how to basically create comics and graphic novels. And it's followed by a reception where the kids who participated share their printed work with their families and friends. And participants in this program were between 8 and 12. And after leaving the class, after the first day, one participant said, "I'll be here every day with a smile on my face because this is awesome." The Children's Room also saw the busiest summer reading program in several years, with participants age 11 and under reading a total of 86,608 minutes over 10 weeks. And for the Health Department, Chris Craig successfully passed the Registered Sanitarian exam. Taylor West received the Massachusetts Health Officers Association Sandra Collins Public Health Award. The Board of Health developed and adopted new Body Works regulations. Taylor was selected to serve on the Mass Women's in Emergency Management Steering Committee. And the Health Department also accepted the Kenneth Pickard Municipal Innovation Award from the Massachusetts Municipal Association.
Okay, I have the Facilities Department, the Fire Department. The Facilities Department completed the installation of the indigenous plantings around the townhouse and completed the new office build out at the senior center and is currently working at completing the installation of the 2 EV charging units, one at the townhouse and one at the library. They also receive an award for brevity. For the Fire Department, the full-time deputy chief's position, with the support of the board and the Southborough taxpayers, the department established its first full-time career deputy fire chief position. Deputy Fire Chief Kenneth Franks was selected through a competitive process. A member of the department since 1992 and a Southborough resident, Deputy Franks most recently served as a captain/shift commander. He immediately assumed a key role in developing departmental standards, policies, and expectations for coordinator positions while supporting operational command and control at the emergency incidents. Promotions: the department proudly celebrated the promotion of Captain Dana Amendola, Captain Jason Roach, Lieutenant Thomas Durkin, Lieutenant Zachary Clements. Increased minimum shift standing. Annual town meeting once again supported the department by funding higher minimum shift strengths using existing full-time personnel. This enhancement improved the department's ability to manage both routine calls and high-risk, low-frequency emergencies. These changes, supported by data from the public safety staffing study and the addition of a deputy fire chief, moved the department closer to meeting the study's recommendations. New personnel: the department welcomed 2 new firefighters/paramedics, William Kipp and Logan Donahue. Both bring valuable experience in fire and emergency medical services. New ladder truck. The new ladder truck was placed into service in early '25, replacing the aging aerial towers that required frequent repairs and experienced increasing out-of-service time. The new truck is built on a shorter chassis, improving municipality on Southborough's narrow roads and driveways. It is fully equipped with the rescue tools and motor vehicle accidents within town and on the interstates in our town boundaries. Training and divisional enhancements. The training division implemented a comprehensive training plan that exceeded industry standards. Firefighters now complete a minimum of 2 hours of hands-on training per shift, in addition to emergency response and other assigned duties. All training is documented in the department's record management systems, allowing for the efficient tracking and quality control.
Building Department. First and foremost, we extend our sincere gratitude to Melissa Danza and Laura Davis for their exceptional commitment to supporting the Building Department during recent transitional periods. Both were truly overwhelmed with demands placed upon them, yet they handled all undertakings with grace, steady dedication, and made sure services continued without interruption. Their willingness to step outside their formal job responsibilities while still managing the full scope of their own departments was instrumental in keeping our operations running smoothly. Their efforts were not only above and beyond expectations, but genuinely invaluable to the department. To date, the building department had issued 1,105 permits, generating $557,414 in revenue for the town. This includes 666 building permits, ominous number, $501,000, $175,000 is what those 666 building permits represent. 212 plumbing permits, which is $27,231, 227 gas permits, $18,480, and 445 electrical permits, which is $10,528. With the addition of Mark Robodeau as building commissioner and Katie Berry as building business administrator, we look forward to stabilizing the department and strengthening our commitment to excellent customer service, safety, and ensuring proper building practices. The rec department. They held a revamped and successful summer program that saw over 555 individual children attend over the course of 7 weeks. Registration for spring and summer 2026 programs opens on February 25th. The Recreation Department held several fantastic community events that included summer concert series, summer block parties, Touch a Truck, Summer Nights, Heritage Day, Trunk or Treat, and the Gobble Wobble. We estimated over 10,000 guests to those events. Successfully managed 300 different reservation groups, totaling over 17,000 total reservation hours between schools, playing fields, and special events. Officially launched the Southborough Recreation Instagram social media account. Continued to partner with Southborough Library, Council on Aging, and Youth and Family Services to offer programming, multi-generational programming. In 2025, we saw 3,640 total participants in our programming compared to 3,580 in 2024. Received a $25,000 grant from the Executive Office of Economic Development to make the entrance to the Trotter Trek more accessible as identified through the 2021 Town of Southborough Self-Evaluation and Transition Plan.
Am I next?
Yes.
So I'm going to do youth and family services and town accountant. So youth and family services, it's quite a list here. They developed the one universal financial assistance application to include town-sponsored financial assistance programs across multiple departments to make it easy for our most vulnerable citizens to receive financial aid. That application is also available in 6 different languages and available both online and in paper form. They also, as we heard last meeting, conducted a community needs assessment with Trendline, which focused on a whole lot of aspects of what people in this community say that they need. They assisted 20 Southborough youth with full camp scholarships. They assisted recently 96 individuals from 28 families through the Winter Wishes programs that a lot of people on this board help fund. So thank you very much. Purchased Pocket Talk devices for interpretation and increased prioritization of marketing material translation. In collaboration with the Southborough Housing Authority management staff, they developed a program for Colonial Gardens residents and a satellite space for Southborough's human services departments to go there and provide on-site services. They developed just tons of courses, 10 educational training courses for residents. They've got they co-sponsored or sponsored 18 events. They had another 34 events and programs that they offered. They provided mental health support to 115 individuals. They had 729 appointments for mental health support provided in 2025. So that's Youth and Family Services. Town accountant. I don't know who wrote this, but they have definitely sold themselves short. So I'm going to add to this one. So Carla and Debbie were instrumental in making sure that we used all of our $3 million ARPA allocation. So we used every penny of it. They also were instrumental in applying for FEMA money that was over $700,000. I'm going to add the following that they didn't put here. They also, as we heard from the annual meeting with our auditors, do a great job with the annual audit. The auditors just give both Brian and Carla and her team kudos. They end up with an audit that has no exceptions, which is almost unheard of. And of course, that's all they see is other towns. So it looks like they believe that the staff we have is the best that they look at. So I think that is something to be recommended. They also are just great to work with. They know what they're talking about. They know municipal accounting, and I'm saying that from my personal perspective. So they are much appreciated.
Okay, and Jim, did you also want to toot your own horn?
No, I'm just gonna share some news, not really blow any horn. Just an aside, because you picked the 28th for the date, I'm gonna contact the vendor, lock us in, so
Okay,
that's a boarded kind of a thing, right? Kids would say that? Okay. That ties into nomination papers for the election. They'll be available tomorrow morning at 8:30. You can pick them up February 13th. A change we're making, which is a nice thing, something we worked on this year. Even though you're elected officials, and you may not have spent any money, unfortunately, the state requires you to do year-end campaign finance paperwork, which you all hate, and I hate dealing with it, but we have to do it as well. However, we are going to use DocuSign this year, which is an improvement in the efficiencies downstairs. We're the only city in town that'll do it, so that'll make it a breeze, which segues into a change we have for the spring. And tip of the hat to Jay Tolman and Melanie at SACA for working with us this. We've questioned why in the world you have to come in person to be sworn in. And Jay did a lot of research and all kinds of hoopla. And the other 350 city and town clerks in Massachusetts are twinging when I say this right now. But we're going to come up with one document when you're appointed, not elected, when you're appointed to a board or committee, that will have the links to all the forms that you have to do, the requirements from the EAG, it's in their regulations, you have to sign a form and this and that. But you'll be able to sign all those by DocuSign, and even the oath that you will take will be acceptable by DocuSign. One document, nobody coming in person unless you want to do it. That'll be a tremendous time saver for everybody. For everything from the selectman's office to all the board and committee members out there. It's a lot of work to make this. We got a couple little tweaks we have to square away, but that you'll see that coming in the spring. I want to give a shout out to Mike from the Capital Committee that helped us. He happened to be downstairs on a Friday afternoon when he saw us cleaning some stuff up, and he came in with Jeremy, our digital archivist, and me on a couple of Saturdays, and we started doing some house cleaning in the basement. And we identified over 4,400 pounds of records that the secretary had let us destroy. So we cleaned out, it's roughly 150 bankers boxes, and we have round two going. And this went across a lot of departments in the building, just a good thing to do. So finally, in the spirit of who's been naughty and nice, and this is something we've been promising for a long time, tomorrow at 8:30, we go live on the clerk's website with the scorecard for every board or committee and who has complied with the bylaw to submit minutes and documents used at meetings within 45 days of the event. And if we go back on the time machine, several years ago, I brought that bylaw to town meeting because we're required to keep minutes forever. And I knew from prior service on the Rec Commission that just didn't happen. So anyway, we've gone through this 3 different ways. I want another set of eyes to look at the 8 o'clock, but we go live at 8:30. And I hope that appointing boards like yourselves and others will look at this and see if people are consistently on the naughty list. You might want to consider that in your decision to reappoint somebody. Somebody once said to me that information only has value when it is provided that people can take action based upon it. And what I have seen a trend over the year is that the certain people tend to hold off and then shoot all the documents in a very short time before town meeting, and that prevents the voters from having the information to be able to act upon. So we'll be putting this list up every 2 weeks. And like I say, it'll go live at 8:30. And I want to say Merry Christmas to all the people that are on the naughty list.
How far back are you going with this?
It goes back through to last year, Kathy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's the select board's grade?
You'll have to look. I'm not, no peeking before 8:30 tomorrow morning, okay?
Okay.
But just as a heads up though, we're not trying to sandbag anybody. Anybody that's late on this, we reach out to the chair as a reminder, hey, you haven't sent this in, please send it in. And so there's nobody being sandbagged here at all. Everybody's known about this. We've held a lot of hands, but it's time to decide who gets coal in the stocking, so to speak. So, thank you.
all right, thanks. With that, I move that we adjourn.
Second?
Is there anybody want public comment?
We don't have public comment on the bottom of the agenda.
Okay.
So, I think I made a motion to adjourn. Seconded?
Second, yeah.
So all those in favor, Dennington, aye.
Landry, aye.
Hamilton, aye.
Fling eye.
Cook eye.
Okay, happy holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays to everybody.